Hello, welcome back from lunch. Here's what I hadn't planned for our 25 minutes together today. I want to talk about three things. First, what's the true vision for AI in the enterprise? And I'll explain why in a minute. Second, what's real, what's not, through the practical examples of the work we've done. And third, what are the gotchas? Where do things slip? Where are the bumps? We're a global professional services company that provides digital transformation for large corporations, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies across the globe. And we apply automation, analytics, and artificial intelligence to be able to do that. In the course of our journey, we've been working with large corporations. We've been applying artificial intelligence at scale. We've curated about, I want to say about 600 startups in the area and work through what they have to offer. We work, at any point in time, we've got over 500 implementations that are going on. And across all of those journeys, when we interact with senior executives from clients, there are three questions we'll typically get. And I want to bring up those top three for you today. The first question almost always comes from the board. So we had a lot of interactions with board. I've spoken with about 60 boards in the last year and a few months. And the number one question on the board's mind is, what is the vision for AI in the enterprise? Is it just the next wave? We just got done with IoT. We're sort of thinking about blockchain, and now there's AI. I guess what's next? And so it's an important question to answer. It's also an important question to answer because we're an 80,000 employee company spread around the world that is transforming ourselves from being a business process services provider to a digital transformation AI-enabled company. And as we do that, one of the largest assets we have is our employee base, our large distributed workforce. And one of the things we're very passionate about is thinking about how do we cross-skill, how do we train, how do we keep our teams more relevant for the future we're going in. Neither of those two questions, clients, boards questions, our own questions around how we think about employee and talent and training can be answered without answering the fundamental question, what is the role of AI? What is the vision for AI in the enterprise? The second question is actually something that comes from CEOs of companies. We work with many CEOs across a variety of industries, and invariably the discussion comes back to the following. There's a lot of stuff out there, great exciting things to hear. What is real? What are you actually implementing? What's workable today? And then what's not? And we'll spend some time on that topic. And then finally, when we speak with lines of business, CXOs, chief digital officers, CIOs, and CTOs, then the discussion is a very different discussion. They've already made their minds, they're on the AI journey. And what they're looking for is, what are the challenges? What are the road bumps? What are the curves? What are the speed bumps we're going to hit, that we have hit, that they can look out for, and how to address that? So we'll cover those three topics today. So in the first one, the question of what is the role of AI in the enterprise? Is it fundamental, or is it just the next wave that's going on? We actually have a point of view. Let's take a look.
Nature's very nature is survival. Every action and reaction guarantee tomorrow. It understands that uncertainty is certain and change is constant, and relies on instinct to not only survive, but flourish and thrive. The instinct to change as its world changes, sense an obstacle before it becomes one, and harness the power of many. Imagine a business with these same abilities, making better, faster decisions on its own, enabling the full potential of its people, evolving into an instinctive enterprise. Guided by deep industry knowledge and enabled by artificial intelligence, the Instinctive Enterprise processes and analyzes information instinctively, adapting, predicting, and connecting, with every encounter making it more intelligent. An Instinctive Enterprise uses domain, industry, and customer knowledge to create adaptive, purpose-driven workforces. It analyzes data to create predictive insights that allow people and systems to act with precision before others can. Its connected ecosystems eliminate silos and fearlessly embrace partnerships for better customer outcomes. With AI as its neural wiring, the Instinctive Enterprise defines and redefines its world. turning reactors into forecasters, human potential into peak performance, and the unknown into the to-be conquered. It's time to evolve. It's time to begin the transformation.
So the view that we have evolved in speaking and working with clients globally is that AI is actually core, it is actually fundamental, it is the neural wiring for the new world our clients are moving into, and we call that the Instinctive Enterprise. Now, I'll give you some practical examples of the work they're doing with us in this regard, and I'll talk you through how they're approaching the Instinctive Enterprise. But for us, we're committed, and we're transferring our own company on those lines. So let's change gears. Let's go in through some examples. And I want to say that the way we approach AI is we've broken them into 4 segments of technologies. We think about language, then we think about conversation, then we move to sight, and then finally we look at knowledge. And then we're working with partners, with startups, with our own technologies, with large global platforms, and building capabilities in each of those 4 areas. So I thought I'd pick 4 examples of 4 different industry verticals, so we get a better cross-section over here, in each one of those 4 areas, and just walk you through where the industry is at today in terms of real deployed in production going on, and then where we're being told and our clients are telling us they're headed. So the first example is the pharmaceutical industry. And obviously, if any of us, if you or I, have taken a medicine yesterday and had an adverse reaction to it, and happened to be at the blood donation center this morning and mentioned it to the receptionist, or perhaps put it out on Facebook Messenger or on a tweet, or maybe 6-9 months down when I actually am meeting with my primary care physician for my annual health checkup, happen to have mentioned it to her. That is an adverse event. And pharmaceutical companies, which are clients of ours, are required across the globe to be able to report it to regulators in a timely and concise fashion. Now, you can quickly see this is a ever-expanding problem because the number of drugs are going up, number of reactions are going up, number of conversations are going up. We're all becoming very social and very chatty on social media. And then, incidentally, the complexity on the other side is going up because every country has slightly different regulations, and pharmaceutical companies have to track and manage through all of that. And solving for the problem is the use of AI for us. So we've built a platform that allows us to tune in, to latch onto these sources of information, whether it's a Facebook Messenger feed, or whether it's a medical system, or a transcript, or a conversation, or voice, and then be able to ingest all of the data at high speed, and to extract through a constantly developing set of ontologies in the medical field and semantic intelligence, the relevant conversations, so we can classify them into a compliant adverse event or not. Because you can imagine the noise factor when you get that level of information is pretty high. And then we run it through clustering routines so we can figure out cohorts, and we put it into a structured database that allows us to be able to report on it and file it with the regulators, or at least our clients would file it with the regulators. And so the state of the industry today is that this stuff works, that we're using natural language understanding with cognitive services on an orchestration platform that is enabling productivity and dynamic response time in terms of co-vigilance in the pharmaceutical industry. Where that industry is going in the future is that as all of this data becomes available, and you can sort of sense this humming web of interconnected data streams, and as you actually are able to feel the pulse of that and ingest that and track in real time the issues and the adverse events that are happening, and are able to respond to it dynamically in real time, we believe the face of public health and drug safety completely changes. And that takes these companies into the Instinctive Enterprise. I'll take another example. I'm going to shift gears. I'll look to insurance, which is a vertical we serve very deeply. And we would have likely, actually, hopefully, we haven't been through this experience, but think about the experience of getting a dent in your car and then trying to work it through the insurance agency. 10 years ago, I had to spend time setting up appointments, scheduling, driving 30 miles out to an authorized assessor, and so on and so forth. Today, the world has already moved. We actually have an Uber-like application that allows for crowdsourcing of local agents that can come in into your garage, into your driveway, and actually take photographs through an application. and then be able to turn that information much faster. But what AI is doing for us is we're taking millions of photographs that we've taken in the past and millions of assessments that we've performed in those photographs in the past, so labeled data, and we're running that and building a neural network on top of a large global platform provider, but a proprietary neural network that we can show a photograph to and get an estimate. And in the early days, which is where we are today, we can actually make straight calls on things like toe, no toe, right off, not, et cetera. And as the accuracy goes up, which it will, then we're able to actually deliver exact cost of repair estimates and be able to authorize that. So the reality is, if you think about it, in this world, AI is driving a completely different customer experience, which has top-line growth and other implications. There's also driving high-quality, fast turnaround. And that's today. But then when you shift and look at tomorrow, where the future is going in that industry, is the ability to harness loss information dynamically in real time to be able to manage costs down low, which then turns the industry to be much more efficient and in turn better priced, which actually expands the size of the market for more participants to play and get insured. And an instinctive enterprise in the insurance industry that thinks along those lines obviously gets further ahead. And this is what we're hearing from our insurance clients. I'll give you a third example, and this is the example in the world of insights. So traditional experience, we've all gone through it. We call it in a call center product support issue, and you know what that experience feels like. What you may not realize, at the end of that call, there's a predefined checklist of items that this service agent is actually filling in. And if I call in and said, I'm not getting value for the price is the box that gets checked. And so we're really missing the depth of insight that we need in the traditional process, and we're applying natural language understanding and voice to text to drag down all of the conversations and to run it through this engine, and then be able to come back with very sharp, very granular specific insights that allow clients to be able to redesign their delivery mechanisms, to think about product design differently, and completely changes that nature. But customer insights is a much deeper topic than where we're at today, and we believe in the future, the face of e-commerce will change. We believe that today, and we know this, we go to an Amazon or any other retailer, certainly when I go on, I get a recommendation of things that I'm likely to buy. 50, 60% of the time, it's completely inapplicable to me. But as we get better insights and we're able to use that knowledge, the predictability of those items will go up. And then what if we get to the point where we can predict 90% of the time what Sanjay is going to buy? The industry is going to change, because the industry will ship me a box. Every Monday morning, I'm going to open my door, and I'm going to step out, and there'll be a box on my doorstep. I'm going to open the box, and none of those 10 things I wanted to buy anyway. I would have bought it that week in any case, so I just take it and start using it. One of those things, I put it back in the box. Now, think about the role of the e-commerce company now. It will change. It will become a reverse logistics management mechanism. It's going to be prediction and increasing the predictive quality of what I'm going to buy. And that's instinctive enterprise in the future. My last example in the fourth area is the example in the consumer goods supply chain area. Very complex problem. Think about the toothpaste you used this morning. It was originally sourced from ingredients from different countries. It was manufactured specifically in some country. It was shipped through lots of ports of call based on trade and promotion, embargo, and other things. And it ended up in a package that is specific to the regulatory requirements of the country you purchased the toothpaste in. That's a very complex mechanism. Products are proliferating, variations are coming up, colors and other things. This is a really large problem for our clients in the consumer goods world. And we use machine intelligence to be able to track the decisions that have been made in the past and augment the human, these are large departments, by the way, augment the human associate to be able to make those decisions instinctively much faster. And that's today. Where we think it's going in the future is, as this information, as this technology matures, all of the trade regulations, all the embargoes, all of that data will automatically get ingested and be available as a corpus in the platform. And now we're going to end up having a much more synthetic, much more agile mechanism to actually work through the supply chain and drive efficiency in it. We think that's going to change the game in supply chain. So 4 quick examples, 4 different industries, 4 different technology areas across knowledge, sight, insight, and so forth, and where the world is at today and where we think it's headed. Okay, so then I want to change gears again, and I want to come to the third part of my discussion. And look, the reality is we've had many challenges. I want to bring up the top 3 challenges we've had to grapple with as we put AI to work in the enterprise. The first of them, and this is a much debated topic, is the notion of explainable AI. And there's a fundamental issue at play over here. Because in the end, AI is as good as it is because it is programming itself. And there is no what, if, then kinds of statements, no business rules that are actually going in. And so it becomes very difficult to address this explainability issue. For my clients, it doesn't work. I sell to clients that are in regulated markets. Regulators are loath to using AI techniques when they can't explain it. And actually, beyond regulators, just for large enterprises, if you don't understand how the decision is being made, most people don't trust the decision that got made. And so it drags down the adoption rate, which for my clients becomes a challenge because you have to make a large investment and you have to get the returns. The technology might work, but if it's not adopted, they don't get there. So we've used a very practical approach to this problem. And in a nutshell, it's all about designing with the end in sight. And what that means for us is when we construct an application with the core of AI, we think about it in atomic pieces that can be disaggregated and then tracked back to its source. Case in point. We work for large financial institutions across the globe. We look at things like loan portfolios, and we manage and assess the risk in that portfolio. Typical process, 500 balance sheets, 3 different languages, two different accounting standards. And we aggregate that information, and we report it and calculate a score. That's the risk score, and banks use it to manage the portfolios better. If we just presented the score and walked away from it, I won't be able to sell. By the way, this is up and running in 3 of the top 20 banks. 3 of the top 5 wealth management firms use this, and it's in production. It's been for a few years now. It would never go up. The reason it goes up is this. We've designed the application so you can look at a score and say, well, that doesn't look right. So you click on it. And you click and drill, and it opens up the component scores. And you click the third one, because that looks out of scale. And now you get to the individual loan instruments, and you understand each one. And the 7th one on the list is completely out of range, and that's what's driving that. You click on it, and so on and so forth, till you actually get to the 2 sentences that was read on page 19 of the balance sheet in the footnotes, and translate into a number that added up and aggregated and converted into averages and so forth, and delivered that number. And this ability to click and drill, to track and trace, to go down to the root cause of the atomic information that drove that endpoint was the key for us. And once we cracked it, we were able to deliver this at scale for many clients. The second issue I face, we sell to business enterprises and enterprise applications, is data density. Now, obviously, AI is a killer app for search and mail and ads and click-throughs and so forth. The challenge in business environments is I just don't have as much data bits to be able to mathematically compute AI algorithms on. So when we think about contract reconciliation as an example, we serve consumer goods companies, retail companies in this space. And they're looking at 500, maybe 800, maybe 1,000, maybe 3,000 contracts. And they're looking at 800,000 invoices that came on the back of those contracts. We've got to find an ability to match and reconcile and come back and say the contract said 5 cents a mile for shipment when in California. These invoices are saying 7 cents a mile. And as a result, there's been a $60 million leakage that we should be able to address. Now, if you had to solve that problem, you can't really just apply mathematical language. So we've used Stanford, we use Chicago, we used a bunch of technologies. But the problem is, if you don't have scale, you don't get great results. And so we applied a notion of computational linguistics, a different approach to solving the language problem. And fundamentally, the idea is you take language, you take grammar, you disaggregate the sentence, you understand each component, and you aggregate the knowledge back. And it's a little different approach to understanding a sentence, understanding a language, than traditional mathematical computing models that are also very efficient in large environments, but not so for this. And so the point I want to make for you is this. Look, not all AI is created equal. And one of the key things we have to do, that you ought to do as you think about a problem, is pick the right tool for the right job. And that's been one of the biggest learnings we've had in that area of low data density in our use cases. Here's a third problem that we have. In the business world, the quality of knowledge graphs is fairly shallow. The reality is, and just to put this in place, the reality is, think about a scenario like this. 2 girls, the daughter and the classmate went to the amusement park, and the daughter says, look, life is not fair, to her mother. And it's really not fair because Megan was born 3 months after me, so I'm actually older, but I'm half-inch smaller or shorter than the cutoff line for getting on the ride, so I can go on the ride and she can. And that's not fair at all. And the reality is, if you think about that example, every 8-year-old in the world can hear the sentence and know exactly what was said. No AI system can decipher that because we don't have a sense of fairness built into AI. We don't have a sense of timing and casuality and equitability. It's a very difficult problem to solve. And so, I can look up at my Siri and ask for the nearest Starbucks, but if I called in a AI agent and said, on page 19 of the contract, it said this, but actually you've done this other thing over here. Now, what are we going to do about it? Can't deal with it with the knowledge graphs that exist. And so what we've had to do, and this is what I would encourage you to do, is think about intersections of domain and digital. Think about intersections of AI with the knowledge that can goal-orient those machine learning systems, that can distill the right information, that can add the insights that are required. And we've been busy at work trying to add the ontologies, the contextualization that is so critical to achieve. So 3 large problems. I'll give you one more, and I'll tell you how we've solved it. One of the things I've come to learn, and we've done this now hundreds of times over, so this is a lesson learned from making many mistakes, by the way, and I'll be humble about it, is that digital and transformation in AI is not a destination. It is a journey. And so what we find is, in my engagements, I'll be working with a CIO of a large global corporation, and the first question is, well, we got to deploy some robotic process automation, and can you show up in Copenhagen tomorrow morning and deploy 1,800 or 3,000 or 36,000 of those in the next 6 months? Fast forward 9 months, we'll come back and have the same discussion, and now these things are up and deployed, and they're throwing all kinds of data all over the place, and the discussion changes to, hey, we got all this data, we never had it before. Now can you run some machine learning on it and see if there's any insights? Is there any patterns? Can we use any information from there? So we'll shoot off a machine learning project and we'll run through it for another 9 months. We'll come back with some responses, and then one response is, wow, I didn't realize that. So can you now run a conversational AI capability on top of those patterns you've detected? So I don't want our people to be taking phone calls. Let's get everyone to call in and self-serve themselves through the conversational AI agent. And that's a simple example. It's a real example, by the way. It's a simple example. But the point it makes is it's a journey. And what you start today evolves to something else, and what you do tomorrow evolves to something else. And so we felt the need for a business platform, the ability to curate some technologies and make them available, to have a service orchestration layer that is built in, into which these can plug into, and then to overlay that with 2 things. One, a governance framework. We think governance is one of the hardest problems in an AI-first world with a digital workforce. That's a different topic for discussion. We have many, many lessons learned in that. And then a journey mapping capability so you can make scientifically approaches to actually transforming the process. And so the Cora is Genpact's platform, and there's other ways to get this done. But I would encourage you to think about an approach that is holistic beyond the next one project that's on the table, and think through, as that project evolves over a period in time, how do you have the underlying infrastructure? How do you build the underlying platform? How do you have the continuity of investment that allows you to scale that journey? And today, we've got lots of different providers, but we don't have the ability to integrate them as easily into one platform. And that's what we do with Genpact Cora. So 3 very large challenges. One that I think we face because we do lots of deployments at scale. Many of you may not be doing that, but we do hundreds of these. And for us, it's been very important to take some practical approaches to solving those 3 problems, and then actually thinking about a digital business platform that enables that. So folks, there you have it in summary. I just want to bring you back to where we started. For boards, our answer is always is very straightforward. We believe AI is fundamental, it's core, it's a turning point, it's here to stay. And it drives an instinctive enterprise in a completely different fashion. So there's a vision for where we're wanting to take AI with our clients. That has many implications for them around business models, employee, talent, all sorts of things, but it's important to have that vision in place. We think AI is real, it's here, it's now, and it's productive. And we have users and clients and operations up and running today, and for a few years now. And we believe the reality is there are many bumps on the road. There are many stops on the way. And we have to take a very practical and an informed approach in how to solve them. And I'm happy to share sort of what we've done and other questions that might come up. I don't know if you have time for any Q&A, but that kind of brought me to the end of my prepared discussion. I will be around after this, and if you're running into specific issues, it's likely that we've bumped into that problem, and I'm happy to share any insights that we might have learned. Thank you.